I'm Gab, he's Jules. Grey skies over West London, but that's okay because we're here to brighten things up. After a pretty intense weekend of football, Manchester City now 5 defeats in a row. Wow. We have Bayern winning on Friday night. We have Napoli still top of the table in Serie A. How about that? Barcelona dropping points. Valverde right back. Thank you, Carlo, for listening to me. But we have to start, or we will start, with Ruben Amorim's first game in charge. They go away to Ipswich. It finishes 1-1. There is so much curiosity. Can he play the 3-4-2-1, the square pegs, the round holes? The reality that he had no time to work with these players because they were all international duty. And so maybe we shouldn't be surprised that we saw the performance that we saw.
No, you're right. I mean, they scored after 80 seconds as well, which I'm not sure really helped him, to be fair. But there's a lot of work to do, and he said that after the game. I thought he was very honest and transparent in his post-match interview on UK television, certainly, talking about the issues that the players would face, but also the fact that, the game was maybe quite underwhelming if you were watching from outside. Even for him, there's moments where the camera would cut on him during the game, and he was like, really not happy. And even at the end, just before the referees blowing the full-time whistle, he's saying go forward, and they don't go forward. So he said there's a lot of things they don't understand yet about how he wants them to play, which I guess is normal, to be expected.
I think it's a classic thing where we think of these footballers and we don't necessarily appreciate that there's a human level to this. I thought United really played within themselves. They scored the goal early, and it felt like they were really conservative after that for a lot of the game. And certainly at least until the equalizer. And it felt to me like it was like, all right, I don't want to screw anything up because I don't want the new teacher to criticize me. Mm-hmm. So we're going to play within ourselves. And that is something that maybe is understandable to some degree, but that's something that's going to go away. What I'm not sure is going to go away is some of the work that he needs to do with these players to teach them the pressing movements that he wants. This takes time. And it looked to me like, initially we saw that Rashford, Garnacho, Bruno front three. Then later we saw Xerxes, we saw Højlund, we even saw Mason Mount. It starts from the front in this system. And I'm talking off the ball. Off the ball, it wasn't there. Movements on the ball, we saw some bright sparks from Ahmad, I thought. But you have to have that, for this to work, you have to have the box working. And it's going to take time because you have to teach these things. You have to choose the right people, obviously, which is a whole other discussion. But then you have to teach these concepts.
Yeah, they ran 102 kilometers in the game as a team, which is, I think, their lowest amount this season in game this season. It's really low. In the Champions League, teams run between 115, 120 Ks a game. To run just over 100 kilometers is not much at all. And I think he was quite honest at the end by saying, we didn't run enough. There was not enough high intensity runs, sprints, etc., which is something that physically, but a lot of new managers said that physically the squad that they got from the previous guy is not fit enough. A lot of them said
They all say that.
They all say that. But
especially
still,
Pochettino.
But still, you're still very right on the sense that this has to improve massively. And their press against Ipswich.
But the point is, you make the high intensity runs when you're confident in your ability to press, right?
Yeah, and you know what to do, I guess.
And you know what to do. These guys haven't had a chance to learn it. It's not something that you can do. Pressing is something that has to be collective, right?
Yeah,
otherwise you just have. What?
You can still run. You should still
you
run.
You can
more
run,
than that.
but you're always going to be a little bit, okay, I'm going to make this run. I'm going to, the trigger's been actioned. But I know that if I'm the only one who goes because somebody else isn't paying attention or they're not used to it or whatever, then I'm going to leave a space exposed. And I think this is why teams that are generally thrown together, why national teams, for example, generally don't press well.
Yeah.
Because you don't have this opportunity. We need to give a shout out to Ipswich as well. Andre Onana is the reason United did not suffer a defeat here. It would not have been a shock if they had lost. Two huge saves, both off of the lap.
Yeah, the first one, I mean, he makes himself big. I don't think he knows too much about it because the lap just smashes it onto him instead of trying to place the ball, which I really, for as good as I think Liam Delap is and will be, this is just not acceptable at this level, I think. And then the second one is the back heel. But yeah, you're right. Onana was outstanding on those 2 saves.
Jules, obviously, I think viewers and listeners will have noticed that we tend to talk about the big club, just a little bit more than the little ones. And like, I'll be honest, when Ipswich came up, a lot of championship players, I was unfamiliar with many of them. I knew that Leif Davis guy who was good. I'd seen him on TV. Amari Hutchinson, I remembered him from Chelsea. He scored a great goal, by the way.
Yeah.
They're near the bottom of the table. They're right around the relegation mark. They're probably going to be like this all year. But I was struck by how these pieces fit together for Kieran McKenna. And it could be one of 2 things. It could be that these are ordinary players.
Yeah.
And McKenna's a genius. Or it could be that actually these are just players I don't know because I don't follow the championship.
It's a bit of both, I think, Gab.
But I really like the football that they played. They just seem to be so unfazed when playing United. They had so much confidence. And I want to ask you about the lap because people here in England, some of them last night on television, are slightly losing their minds about, somebody was saying like, Delap is the heir apparent to Harry Kane. Mark Ogden, we were chatting to, he was comparing him to Alan Shearer, right? Which I said, I respect. But I do, for those who don't know, Liam Delap obviously was a Manchester City player.
He was.
He's still very young. They got, I think, 15 million for him, rising to 20 with bonuses, blah, blah, blah. Between Delap and Cole Palmer, I'm not ready to put Taylor Harwood-Bellis in that category just yet. Did Pep get these 2 badly wrong?
But what do you mean by wrong? Did he get them wrong? I think they had to. I think they sold them because they needed the money to start with. Because
they needed the 15 million. Maybe don't spend money on Mateus Nunes.
That doesn't. The 2 are not linked.
Well, no, they are, because if you need 15 million, you spent 55 on.
But Mateus Nunes was 18 months before. There's not, the 2 are not linked. But I think they need money to balance their books anyway. Cole Palmer wanted to play. He was never going to play at City. I think you can also understand his position to wanting to leave. For the lab, it's maybe different. The guy scored 8 goals in the championship in like almost 50 games last season. I don't think anybody, not even him or his dad, could have forced him.
So he got a lot better very quickly, is what you're saying.
Yeah, this season, 6 goals in his first 11, before yesterday, 11 games in the Premier League. At his age, having never played in the Premier League before, is pretty surprising in the sense that nobody, I think, could have predicted that. So
I think, look, it's kind of an unkind thing to play, to game to play. You could add Jadon Sancho, you could add Pedro Porro to other players who...
Yeah, and other clubs and other managers have had
I do think the lab
things.
might be a little bit different simply because Manchester City only have one center forward right now.
True.
And you could have rotated him in, you could have given him enough minutes, whatever. Yeah. Hindsight is always
it's
2020. Back to Manchester United. All right. I don't know. It was so disjointed, so obvious that these guys hadn't worked together, so obvious that other than putting the lineup together, all he could do was give them a few basic concepts because he didn't have time to work with them. I kind of want to focus on some of his personnel choices, which I thought surprised me. Everybody said, or many people said, we suspected Ahmad might have a shot because of his energy, because of his quality. But I thought he was going to play on the left side and not play as an inverted winger because the whole notion that we'd been told was that, he liked to have wide men. I know it's a little bit different with Kenda, but he liked to have at least one wide man who could deliver crosses with his better foot.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes on this. It said both he and Dalla were effectively inverted.
True. I mean, Ahmad plays on the right usually, even when he plays higher up on the pitch. So I think maybe...
But he does it as an inverted winger. I mean, Ahmad is left-footed, right?
Yeah. So he just played a little bit deeper, but still on that right-hand side. That didn't really shock me.
But why not?
Why not what?
Why not play him on the other flank where
even Ahmad himself prefers playing on the right. So
because he's a number 10 and he's always come inside.
Yeah.
But if you ask him, if you're playing him as a wing back and in that system, what we'd been told is that he likes his wing backs to stay very wide and primarily deliver crosses.
It depends who your inside 10 is, for example. So when Garnacho played on that side with Ahmad, it makes sense for Ahmad to still come inside a little bit, even as a wing back, and then leave Garnacho wider by the touchline, which they did in the second half, for example, which I think worked better. The second half was better than the first half. The first half, they had 4 touches, including the goal and the cross. So 2 outside of the goal after 80 seconds into the Ipswich box. That was not good enough. The second half was much better. Even the way they moved the ball, all the numbers are higher in the second half than the first half. But I was shocked a little bit more maybe. But again, it's not surprising. It's the squad review that he did. We had 4 different inside 10s. We had different pairs of 6s. He changed pretty much a player per line at some point quite early as well. Some substitutions were 55th minute, 62nd minute.
I just think he wanted to see them play.
Yeah, but it's risky to do that in a game too because, like you said, they were not great, but they were not bad either. They were clearly happy with the draw. So was he. So I thought that was really interesting. Even to see Bruno, I think he was really interesting on Bruno after the game because he said Bruno playing deeper is great. You can see it. But he said we can't play Bruno deep all the time because all he wants to do is play the ball long, and we can't play the ball long all the time. So Bruno higher up as an inside 10 like he did in the first half and first 50 minutes, I think is good for them. But then you also see the limitations of Bruno in that position and why you're missing out on him not playing deeper. But when he's deeper, then he has that tendency to play long all the time. So even the Bruno position, when we thought, okay, Bruno is nailed on, he would be his guy, I think he will still be his guy. But even Amorim himself is just wondering what to do with Bruno right now. And same with Garnacho. I didn't think Garnacho could play inside 10s. And then Amorim after the game said, we saw straight away that he could play between the lines, that he was good, that he could turn. And suddenly Garnacho as a 10 makes sense for him. So probably this game didn't answer too many of his questions and instead actually added more questions and more, not issues, but question marks over what to do and who to play where.
I think the Mazraoui as the third center back again. When we did our breakdown with Mark Ogden, he was totally against both Mazraoui and Dalla in the back three. He says, they can't defend, because you know how he's old school. But I thought if there's somebody who played in the back three, it's going to be Dalla, not Mazraoui. For the simple reason that Mazraoui, Dalla, I think of Dalla more as a runner. And the ball progressors, at least at Sporting, the guy, Gonzalo Ignacio and Diomande, are more in that mold than a guy like Mazraoui, who's got more of the vision of a midfielder. So he surprised me there. Evans, I guess, Lisandro out, whatever. I don't think Evans did well at all in that position, but you don't expect him to.
And you had him for 2 weeks. That's probably why he started as well.
Exactly. That's a big factor. That's why I asked you before, did Eriksson not go away with them?
No, he did, yeah.
And then you plump him down in the middle. It feels like I need to have a passer in the middle, right? I can't go Ugarte Casemiro and maybe Menu too young or whatever. I don't know that we're going to see this again. I don't think those two worked well. It looked to me like they still have a ton to learn.
Yeah, and the legs have gone, clearly. So I think there's a lot, but we knew we would learn a lot from this first game, and on the same time, we knew that it would be like that in a way, right? There was nothing surprising in the way they play, the way they played, and the struggles that they had at times, and the fact that even he said himself, there's so much, they need more time. And he said after the game, maybe the most worrying, he said he questioned the players' decision making. And I think it's either because, like you said, they just wanted to be cautious, let's not make a mistake here, let's just keep it simple. Or he really believes that they're just not at that level yet. But they are good players. This is a good team.
Some of them
it's
are,
a big club. Yeah,
some
but
are better than others. Yeah,
it's quite worrying for you managers to come in and say some of the decision making was terrible today.
I thought the press looked better with Højlund and Xerxes. I know people decided that Xerxes is terrible and whatever, and that finish that he had was terrible. But I thought, I'm only watching on television. I'm only seeing a box. I asked Mark, and he said, who was there, and he's like, no, Xerxes was rubbish again. Like, okay, fine. And Højlund was just running around like with no purpose. I do wonder, can you maintain this with Rashford? Is there going to be an actual? Are these positions up for grabs? If you look at Xerxes,
I think all of them are pretty much.
So you think Xerxes is in the mix? I mean,
absolutely. As a 10, as an inside 10, or as a 9, but more as an inside 10 for me.
And so then your 9s become Rashford and
Yeah,
and Højlund, which in this system, Rashford at 9, I think is okay. I mean, is okay. Like I like this better than the bad Rashford we saw cutting in from the wing the last month, which had obviously lost something. All right, this is going to be interesting to watch. Final question. Some ex-pros on television said there's no way he can play back three between now and the end of the season because it's just not possible in the Premier League without a ton of preparation. And they said, I will bet you that he was going to go to a back four. It's not me saying it. This is ex-pro on English television. Do you agree?
I don't agree, no, but it might happen. It's possible. Well, it's true that he's got 10 games in 32 days, including the one yesterday. So there's no time to work, which is true. But like he said after the game, he needs time. He needs loads of work and loads of time, which he won't get. But he would not have started with the back three yesterday if he didn't want to play that system. 100%.
I completely agree with you on that one. All right, enough United. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Barcelona squander a 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 at Celta Vigo. Jules, Hansi Flick says they weren't just bad in the final 10 minutes when they gave up those 2 goals. They were bad throughout.
Yeah, not a great game at all. And I guess against a good team, Celta Vigo are a really good team. They're playing well. They have great players.
They play pretty football.
With a lot of intensity as well. And I still thought, okay, Barca, good for them, winning without playing well, winning without Lamine Yamal. And those games matter when you win and you don't play well. When you win and you're maybe not the best team, when your opponent has a higher XG than you and you're really kind of rattled. And then Casado gets sent off stupidly again. And I'm really hope he will learn. He seems like a smart guy. So I hope he learns from this stupid red card. And after that, they just completely collapsed. I mean, Jules Koundé, and we praised him when he had to be praised. And you know how much I like him. But against Italy with France, made a massive mistake that cost a goal. And that was even worse because I'm not even sure, Gab, what he's trying to do there. Instead of you 10v11, there's 10 minutes to go. He tries to control the ball and control it down, just hoof it in the stands or anywhere else, really. And that first goal for Celta changed even more.
I'm glad you're picking Jules Koundé. I'd pick on Hector Fort, the way the guy put him on the backside for the second goal. And look, I think the reality is even their goals, there's a brain fart from Mingueza on the first one. The second one, Lewandowski's really lucky that the bounce sits up for him. This was not a good performance. No. And I'll say it now. You need to start integrating the guys in. I don't play Gavi when Yamal returns or whatever. Play Gavi at 10. I think Dani Olmo can be. You've got You need to find alternatives up front for Robert Lewandowski. He cannot play every minute of every game. Whether it's Dani Olmo, whether it's that Pau, whoever that guy is, whether it's Ferran Torres, I know nobody likes, but at least he runs around. Yeah. You need to find alternative there.
Yeah, and they've got the mighty Brest in the Champions League in midweek. Hey,
there you go. Not just a body part.
Manchester City are still second, Gabby, but they lose 4-0 at home to Tottenham Hotspur. 5 defeats in a row now for Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, and it's not just that, just some context. It's 3 defeats in a row in the league. Now, this has happened before. It happened to him when he was at Bayern, but that was after they had already won the title. Exactly. Here, if they've got Liverpool at Anfield next weekend, he said if they lose that, the title race is over. They'll be 11 points back. Yeah. So again, not a good performance. Erling Haaland missing, again, a hat trick of chances. Yeah. It can't all be about him. This defending was terrible.
Gvardiol is not a defender. I'm sorry. Gvardiol doesn't know how to defend.
I think you may be a little harsh on Gvardiol, but collectively, it's just not there. In transition, it's not there. It's not just because of Rodri. And he said the right things. He says, we have to face reality. And I like that owning it. He's not coming up with excuses. Rod was there with his Ballon d'Or, whatever. Great. But you have to face the reality that, it can get worse. And it's up to you to turn it around. Jules, not just about City being poor. We need to give some credit to Tottenham as well. They're playing without Van de Ven and Romero.
Yeah, and Ben Davies, our friend, was outstanding. Literally the second coming of Franz Beckenbauer. Real Madrid, you're looking for a centre-back. Ben Davies is your guy in January.
He might be out of contract soon.
He's going to win the Ballon d'Or if he continues like this. Love you, Ben. Really love you. Amazing performance collectively. The way they pressed really high, the way they beat the City press, that was not very efficient. We said that because City are really not good at the moment, but fantastic. The way they took the chances, exploited the mistakes by the opposition. Maddison, who'd been a bit struggling and was dropped by Ange recently, with two massive goals. I mean, the first one is on his shin, but that's okay, it counts. The second one is beautiful. Really, they could have scored 6 goals too, because Kulusevski has a great shot that saved by Ederson. Really wonderful performance. 2 weeks after, or 3 weeks after
the defeat against Ipswich.
being really poor.
Where the vibes were really, really bad.
Yeah.
I think we need to put that in that context. They're inconsistent.
Yeah. And sticking with City, Gabby, the eagerly awaited Associated Party transactions votes took place at the Premier League on Friday. And how did it go?
So the Premier League proposal, within 20 minutes, they said, all right, let's have a vote. And it finished 16-4 for the Premier League, which means the rules stay for now. Because as Aston Villa pointed out, Aston Villa, one of the 4 clubs who voted against, along with Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, and of course Manchester City, coming out and saying, well, wait a minute, we don't have the written reasons from the last decision that was handed down that invalidated these. Shouldn't we wait in case there's another legal challenge from City, which there probably will be?
Yeah.
I think Villa actually have a point on that one. Fundamentally, though, we tend to complicate this whole thing. Ultimately, it's basically about, if you're an associated party, if you're a company that has ties to one of the clubs or one of its owners, why are you against fair market valuations? Why shouldn't it be pegged? If you want to make a different argument, I should be allowed to put in as much money. But just conceptually, to me, it seems mad. One other fun fact: Manchester United voted in obviously they voted with the Premier League with it, and guess who spoke on behalf of Manchester United? That's right, Omar Barada, who was at Man City,
of course,
singing a very different tune not that long ago. All right, Jules, we're not done because we have more quick hits.
Yes.
Liverpool stay top with a 3-2 comeback win at Southampton. Jules, it could have been a very different story if their opponents hadn't been in a festive mood giving away gifts
before
and if
Christmas.
Mohamed Salah didn't exist.
Yeah, it helps when you've got Mo Salah in your team. Obviously, it also helps when the opposition team play a goalkeeper like Alex Marcotti. We like him. But
I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he clearly just lost the ball.
He can't just play football anymore. I mean, I don't know what he's doing on the Liverpool second goal. I don't know where he's going. I don't know why he's coming out like that in that angle, in that way. When it would made no sense. But if you're Liverpool, and we've said they've been really, really good this season at exploiting mistakes from the opposition. When they don't play well, they just wait, and if you give them a little something in the box, they'll punish you. And that's exactly what they did on the 3 goals.
Yeah, and the third one, of course, was Sugawara, brain fart with his handball. They have this ability to hunker down and not make mistakes when things aren't going great. And I don't think Liverpool were playing great at all in this game.
No, but they haven't.
And that's how you win. That's how you win titles.
Yeah. And sticking with Liverpool, Mohamed Salah also said after the game that he has not received an offer yet to extend his contract, and he's more out than in. I quote, more out than in.
Yes. And he said it's not in his hands. It's not in the hands of the fans. He was disappointed that he hasn't heard from the club. I think we're playing a game here. It's a negotiation. Rami Abbas, his agent, I am 100% certain, is talking to the club about what they're going to do. It's about finding a number. And I go back, and boring as this might be for people, it's not the kind of thing where you give him what he wants. It's just a stupid reaction to have. Yeah. Everybody has a value. They have Michael Edwards there. I wonder, Michael Edwards doesn't really give interviews, but one of Michael Edwards in the back of his mind says, hey, maybe if I hadn't had to leave the club for a year, maybe we wouldn't be in a situation where Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent are all in the last 6 months.
But I mean, if you're Salah and you know that Trent has an offer, that Virgil has an offer, and you don't have one, you kind of know like the writing is on the wall.
Do you know really. You don't have one? Or do you just say you don't have
he
one?
He would not say, I think, if it was not, he would not lie like that.
No. He doesn't have, but an offer means something in front of you that you can sign.
No. That's a contract offer. An offer is like, hey, they've just told me they're ready to pay you X amount of money for the next 2 years.
Who knows what Rami Abbas is telling him? And I think this applies to the other 2 guys as well, frankly.
I personally, I think that he doesn't have an offer the others 2 have, and I think that's not for him. And rightly so. He must be like, okay, what's going on there? And
all right. My guess, and I don't know, purely speculating, he's going to take a pay cut and he's going to stay because the market for him out there in terms of places where he would want to be, assuming he's not just moving for money, is actually very, very small. Not because he's bad, but simply because the market has changed. Arsenal demolished Nottingham Forest 3-0. Jules, remarkable how much better they are when Martin Odegaard is around.
Yeah, that's very true, Gab. They were just so good, so certainly for the first half. The fluidity in their game, the flow, everything that he brings. And players around him that clearly feel completely different when he's on the pitch, from Saka to Timber to even the Trossard, all the other players. It was good. It could have been more than 3. They controlled more in the second half, really. Calafiori was back, which was really good at left back, played for an hour. They even rested someone like Kai Havertz, and Ethan Nwaneri at 17 came on, looked really good and scored a goal. So perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I think Ethan Nwaneri will get. He'll get. He's the perfect segue to Odegaard. Different profile, perhaps, but in terms of leadership and whatever. Do I need to see? Are we going to see? I guess I have to see Gabriel Jesus at center forward because Kai Havertz can't play every minute of every game.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, not my preference.
Real Madrid win 3-0 away at Leganés and are now within 4 points of Barcelona with a game in hand. Yes, that's right. And Gab, we saw Fede Valverde at right back and Vinicius playing in the center and Kylian Mbappe back scoring.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. We knew Carleto had to make some changes, obviously enforced, and we saw Asensio come back, play center back.
Yeah.
Valverde right back. Some of us had been suggesting this for a while.
There's nothing else he could do, really.
There's nothing else he could do, but I think you are kind of seeing the future. I know he's I don't want to play there. I'm like, dude, just live with it, right? Because Camavinga is going to get better, because Bellingham's there. You can make a whole career out of it. Worked pretty well for Dani Alves, right? But hey, maybe they will get a right back. I don't know. More interesting to me is what they did up front with Arda Güler on the right. I said, hey, Kylian, you've had your 2 weeks off. You've had your wellness days, your well-being days, your mental health days. Why don't we return you to your left-hand side where you played most of your career and see how that happens? And he got Vini to play through the middle. I don't know if Vini was almost like a 10, frankly.
Yeah,
because he was starting from deeper.
Yeah.
Against a team that sits super deep the way Leganés does, that works great because Vini can run at defenders from deep and pick up space. He showed that he can pass. I mean, that's not his side. It's not something he gets to do very often when he plays on the left wing. But I mean, that pass to Mbappe for the goal, I thought was impressive. He draws people out of position. Arda Güler showed again that he's a little special. Güler or Brahim Diaz on the right, waiting for Rodrigo to return. Maybe this is a scheme. And shout out to Jude Bellingham because we've criticized him in the past when he hasn't performed. He performed, and I thought he was on fire.
Not very good though. Let's be honest.
This was way back on Friday, but Paris Saint-Germain beat Toulouse. Speaking of not very good, 3-0. However, it was 1-0 until a few minutes left, and they ended up actually behind on the expected goals. Jules,
they had a lot of chances, and he also rotated a lot again, which.
We got to see Skriniar. Who was that masked man at the back?
I know, you're right. Absolutely, that's true.
Desiree Doué at center forward. How about that? Not so much.
Yeah, no, Asensio more. Doué was playing deeper, but Asensio as a false 9 is always the same. We're waiting for Gonzalo Ramos.
You have 2 forwards, essentially, if you have Doué and Asensio in the middle. I mean, whoever you want, whoever's in front of that's different.
Right? Yeah. Asensio, more in that position. I've played more there. But yeah, they gave two massive chances. One that was really wasted over the bar in the second half, and one great return from Zaire Emery, who was outstanding, apart from giving away the ball for one of the big chances. But there was a lot of good things again there. Joy Neves was outstanding, scored a great first goal. But it's just this, there's just something they like when they get into the box, which I don't really understand what it is exactly. Enzo Fernandez is back in the starting lineup for Chelsea. Scores 1 and sets up another away in their win at Leicester on Saturday. Gab, has Maresca changed his mind?
I don't think he's changed his mind in terms of Maresca versus Romeo Lavia, but this system, which was essentially a 4-1-4-1. I mean, if you look at the Enzo heat map, he's almost alongside Cole Palmer. Yeah. To do this, you need to have monster Caicedo behind you. And Moises Caicedo has really been stepping it up. I think this is what gave him the confidence to say, all right, you sit in front of the back 4 by yourself, and we'll leave Romeo Lavia out for this one. And you saw what Enzo can do for you. I thought he was very good. I thought Chelsea could have scored easily 3 or 4,
they were good.
If not more. Now, it'll be curious to see, though. This was against a poor Leicester side. What do you do against better teams? Can you play Enzo in that position? Do you go back to Lavia? I think it's good to have that option. Long term, Enzo Fernandez probably can't be on the bench, but equally, Enzo in a 2 against certain teams is going to be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jules, we've sort of been sleeping on them this year, but it's time to give Eintracht Frankfurt some love. Their win over Werder Bremen makes it 5 on the bounce, and they move into second place. Plus, that goal score looks very, strangely familiar. Where have I seen him before?
Yeah, maybe a certain World Cup 10 years ago. Here you go. Mario Götze with the goal. Hugo
It's the same
Ekitike.
guy. It's not some other dude with the.
Hugo Ekitike with the assist. Great game from Ekitike. With Marmoush has been the star player this season. Didn't score this time, but Ekitike, who's also been very good, provided with the assist. They're a really fun team to watch. With Salah, they score a lot of goals. They play with a lot of intensity, super attacking. I think they're really worthy of that second place in the table because they've been really that good.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't necessarily the best example of it, but all season long, I think they've had this consistency. I think they lost to Leverkusen and Dortmund away. Those are their only two defeats.
Yeah,
and that's why they're up there.
Milan and Juve played to a scoreless draw. Gab, two varying reactions from the manager.
Yeah, so I just quote from Paulo Fonseca.
Yeah,
he's like, in my career as a player and a manager, I don't think I've ever been involved in a more boring game. The buildup was too slow. There wasn't enough risk-taking. There wasn't enough intensity. Now, Paulo, I love you. And he said because they got booed by their own fans at the end, he's like, I would have booed too if I was a fan. Paulo, I absolutely love you. I love your honesty.
And you agree with him, right? Because I agree with him.
I agree with him.
Okay.
Also, you played a million midfielders, fine. But by the same token, dude, it's your job to fix it. Thiago Motta, on the other hand, the dreamer with a funny formation, okay, he's got the alibi, no Vlahovic.
Yeah, and away from home.
And he's like, oh yeah, point away from home. Suits us just fine. A late penalty from Antoine Griezmann and a winner from the only living Sorloth in captivity. Give Atletico Madrid a 2-1 comeback win over Alaves. Jules, 700 games on the Atletico bench for El Cholo.
Yeah, pretty special landmark. Although, as we were saying when we were preparing for the show, you're still far away from a Sir Alex Ferguson or an Arsene Wenger. But then...
Or, I can't believe you haven't mentioned him. Who's done better in terms of games for one club than both Wenger and Ferguson?
Of course, the one and only Giroud.
It's like 1,000. Like, Simone would need to coach another 1,000 games to get within spitting distance of Giroud.
I mean, 13 years in the job, because he arrived in December 2011, El Cholo. So if there's another... so he needs, at least another 10 years to get close to those guys. And
he's, what do you say, 54?
Yeah,
so
he was born 1970. Yeah.
He's not that old.
No.
And what I will point out, I actually went down the weird rabbit hole of going on the internet and seeing like who's managed the most games with one club and blah, blah, blah. So there's guys who are way up there. Like in fact, I'll mention our friends north of the border. This guy, Bill Struth from Rangers. This other guy, Willie Maley from Celtic. These guys were managers for like 30 years.
Yeah.
But what I do want to mention is they were the coach, but these are the guys, like they would show up to training dressed in suits with like double vested, pockets and stuff and like the stupid hat and everything. Kind of different from what Cholo Simeone does.
Yeah, exactly. Napoli stay top in Serie A as Romelu Lukaku scores to beat Roma 1-0. Gab, Conte grinds out. But how did Ranieri do in his first game back in charge?
So first on Conte, they created the chances. They never really took risks. They deserve to win. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. Yeah. This is one of those like little by bit, by bit, brick by brick. This is how you win the title. And I'm often critical of Conte, but I want to point out 8 of these guys were people from the Spalletti title-winning side in the starting 11. And I think that's significant because, yes, he made them spend money, brought people in, David Neres, this and that. But in the end, he said, listen, I'm here to make the guys who are already here better.
Yeah.
And he's done that. That's a crazy Claudio Ranieri. I mean, he did the classic thing, right? First game, keep it safe.
Defensive.
4-4, 1-1. Pellegrini behind Dovbyk. Everybody else defending. Dybala 3 minutes. I don't blame him for it because that's what they need.
Especially away at Napoli.
Away at Napoli, fine. But I think there's a deeper issue there with kind of the Pellegrinis, the Cristantes, the Dybalas too. The guys are supposed to, Mancini, guys are supposed to be leaders. And all the newcomers who've come in, it doesn't seem to be there's much cohesion there. Shout out to Saud Abdelhamid, who became, I believe, the first Saudi player in the history of Serie A. He played a few minutes at the end. He's got to build the chemistry with these guys, and I think some of these guys won't be there after January. And your boy Izolfi, he needs to start earning his salary.
Absolutely.
Leipzig managed to throw away the lead,
Wow.
not once, not twice, but 3 times, and they lose a wild one at Hoffenheim 4-3. Jules, I don't want to be mean.
No, but we should.
Could the issue here be Marco Rose?
Absolutely. This has to stop. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. We like him. He's not
very
a bad
pleasant
coach.
last name.
Yeah. He's not a bad coach, but this inability they have to close games out, to still be so up and down within the same game. They were still leading 3-2 in the 82nd minute or something, and then they concede twice. Ridiculous goals to concede. It's just mind-blowing. And they have a team that is better than what they are showing on the pitch. And it's not good in the Champions League. We said that. Really
They're terrible in the Champions League. I mean, they're still third in the Bundesliga, third or fourth.
But that inconsistency is terrible.
Yeah, and do you think it's, the whole like Red Bull analytics nerds, Salzburg, look at this is how you play football, blah, blah, blah. Is this proving, have people figured this out? Or is it just that Rose is not good at executing?
Yeah, I just don't think Rose is, it's just lacking, I think, a lot of what would make this team quite special and contenders, really, as simple as that. Inter score 5 by halftime and win 5-0 away at Verona. Gab, I never thought that Joaquin Correa would be the man of the match, especially after seeing Marseille last season.
Joaquin Correa, who I think hadn't scored in like 18 months.
Yeah,
because he didn't score at all for Marseille last season.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for El Tucu Correa.
Yeah.
First of all, because he is such a weird build for a player like this. And when he's good, he looks really good.
Yeah.
He's often not good at all. This was absolutely, first of all, this is absolutely dominating. He did the thing that he always does. Massive rotation, he had injuries, whatever. It doesn't matter. They go out and they destroy the opposition. Correa was unplayable. He scored a goal, 2 assists. Your boy Thuram, a couple goals too. Jan Bissek scoring while lying down on the floor, which was also fun to watch. I think Inzaghi, people make fun of Inzaghi because they paid a lot of money for Correa because Inzaghi had him at Lazio and he really liked him. He's done nothing. He's done squat since coming to Inter. But if he can be a viable forward, if all of a sudden, for a team that plays a front two, if all of a sudden your options off the bench, behind Lautaro and Thuram, are Arnautovic, Taremi, and Correa.
Yeah.
You've got 3 different profiles of players. And because his natural instinct is always to make substitutions and take people off, then it makes Inter a lot better. So, I mean, I think actually Correa could be really important if this game wasn't a one-off. If he goes back to being the Marseille Correa, then he's not going to move the needle at all.
True.
Speaking of Marseille, they win at Lens. 3-1. Feel bad for my boy Joseph, but still, happy for my other boy, Roberto De Zerbi. He's smiling under his goatee.
He's smiling again. I mean, away form was never a problem for them. They have been really, really good this season. So we kind of expected, although they really struggled in the first half, Lens, by far the better team, just not taking their chances. And in the second half, Marseille, with maybe a little help from the referee, that's what they're saying at Lens, just took control of the game. Rongier scored. Neil Maupay was quite outstanding. We saw Højbjerg with a direct free kick just at the end of the game when the game was still in balance.
Would this be the half French Højbjerg?
Half French Højbjerg, yeah.
That's why his name is Pierre-Emile, by the way.
Denmark,
you can't claim him all for yourself?
No, exactly. Memi Højbjerg is French. So, good win for them. The problem is, unfortunately, that the next game is at home. And
it's against Monaco.
And that's where they struggle, exactly. So, let's see if they can also start winning again at home. This was way back on Friday, but Harry Kane bags a hat-trick as Bayern dominate Augsburg 3-0, and Gabi is the quickest man in history to 50 Bundesliga goals.
Yeah, so the goals came late, and 2 of them were penalties, but make no mistake about it, this was one-way traffic.
Absolutely.
I know it's a derby and everything,
yeah.
But Augsburg came there purely, I thought, to defend. And again, you don't blame them. Worked for a while, but eventually when you play that way, you run the risk of things breaking down, and that's what happened. You liked his 3rd goal, didn't you?
I mean, people made quite a lot this weekend about if you know the Bundesliga logo.
Yeah.
Where the guy is like, the ball is in front of him and he's kind of in the air. And they said that Kane's first touch on the cross from Kimmich on the right-hand side was reproducing the logo, which it isn't really. Because the logo, the ball is above, is in front of the foot, whereas this one, the ball was coming from the side. But anyway, it's a great first touch. And he finished it.
There's only one logo, and that's Jerry West.
Of course.
Let's move on.
Of course. Let's move on.
My boy Carlos Baleba gets sent off, but Brighton hang on to win at Bournemouth 2-1. Jules, they're joint 3rd, and they're showing that they can win ugly too, because in my view, and you may disagree, I thought Bournemouth should have gotten something out of this game. But that Fabian Hurtzler is getting it done.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, they're riding their luck a little bit. You're right. And I think the draw is probably a fair result in there. But great goal from Mitoma, wonderful assist by Joao Pedro, and they play with so much intensity that I think it keeps them always within the game, even with 10 men. And Carlos Baleba is still very young. He will learn a lot. That second yellow is completely pointless to get. I mean, the first one was pretty bad too, and I think he will learn from it a lot. But to do it like that away from home with 10 men was really, really impressive.
And what I wonder about Baleba too is the other guy, Ayari, is it? Who the guy
Ayari,
came on from a couple games ago. And when I was all shocked, I wonder, Baleba needs to realize, dude, I am so much better than this other guy. I am so much better than almost everybody on this team.
Yeah.
Certainly everybody who plays my position. I have to stay on the pitch.
Yeah. Patrick Schick scores a hat-trick as well as Bayer Leverkusen come from 2 goals down to at home to beat Heidenheim 5-2. Gab, it was looking really ugly for the first half hour.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, 6 games in a row without a win in Champions League and Bundesliga games. Let me tell you how the first half hour started, right? So first, Piero Hincapie, the darling of the analytics Bundesliga nerds, the guy who never gives the ball away. He gives the ball away in his own box. And they go a goal down. Then, Granit Xhaka, the chest-beating leader, blah, blah, blah. It's on me. And Jonathan Tah, the guy who some people, again, use the same nerds, are linking to Real Madrid simply because he's out of contract. Those 2 guys are standing there. The guy who scored the second goal, his name escapes me right now. He moves right between them as if they're not there.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, and you think about, Xhaka, what Xhaka said after the game a couple of weeks ago when he says, oh, this is terrible. I need to stop now because I'll say things that'll get me in trouble. Hradetsky kind of throwing a tantrum when they had that late defeat. And you think, is this really going to go down the toilet? But no, you learn what teams are made of in times of adversity.
Yeah.
And without Victor Boniface, that's why Patrick Schick was playing. Leverkusen just turn it on. Minute 29, they pull one back, and then the rest of the way, they don't look back. I don't know what the XG was at the end. They scored 5. They could have scored even more.
More than that, yeah.
I think wins like this in some ways, okay, Heidenheim aren't great, but wins like this in some ways build confidence more than others where it's all easy for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Aston Villa have to come from behind twice to get a draw away to Crystal Palace. Jules, no wins in 5 in all competitions for our boy Unai Emery.
Yeah, it's difficult. At the moment, we said that before the international break too. And this time, to be fair, I didn't think they were good at all. I thought Crystal Palace had a great game plan to wait for them and hit them on the counter, which they do on the 2 goals, and could have even scored more. And for Villa, it felt just like a battle and a struggle a bit to create. Rodgers is maybe looking a bit tired now. He's played a lot of minutes. Massively, lots of minutes. Then on set pieces, okay, they come back. Great goal from Ross Barkley at the end to snatch a point, but a point at home to Crystal Palace. This Crystal Palace team this season is not good enough when your aim is another top 4 finish or top 5 finish. So I think a lot of soul searching in a way for Unai Emery. The problem is, Gab, because they have the Champions League now, you've got no time for it. They play again in 2 days, or so even on Tuesday, and then they play at the weekend again. And that's why I think they struggled to stop that difficult run.
I thought actually they were better than some of the recent outings in this game. I mean, they could have converted the chances and they could have won. But I completely agree with you about the underlying things. Some of these players are looking a little bit worse for wear, and now there's this crazy run of 10 games in a month.
Yeah.
And I think it's really going to stretch Emery.
Yeah, and the penalty miss was obviously a massive turning point too in that game. Borussia Dortmund beat up Freiburg 4-0 to move into 5th place. All well now for Nuri Sahin?
I mean, you could look at this and say, Freiburg are a good side. They were Dortmund's peers in the table anyway. They overcame the fact that Serhou Guirassy was a late scratch. And so, they had to deal without him. Obviously, they have a bunch of other guys who are still injured. Valdemar Anton is back in the back line. But no, I don't think this is Borussia Dortmund. I'm not going to read anything into
Definitely not.
because they're capable of shipping 5 in midweek. So the answer, no. Nantes and Le Havre are both fighting for survival in Ligue 1, and tensions are running very high.
Yeah.
In Le Havre's case also because I know, this is where I shoehorn John Texter into the show. I know we talked about how Texters Lyon were provisionally relegated. They didn't find the money. Le Havre in the same boat as well. Although they could
not
actually
good
get relegated on the pitch. But
yeah.
anyway, things got ugly very quickly
It did,
on Sunday.
Yeah, twice the game was suspended after the Nantes Ultras protested first during the game, in the middle of the game, or in the middle of the first half, where they threw toilet rolls and tennis balls on the pitch. And then, more importantly, the team were already 1-0 down at that time, the first interruption. Then towards the end, where Le Havre were 2-0 up at Nantes in a massive game, and Le Havre are not good, Nantes are not good either. They tried to invade the pitch to protest. The cops were there. The referee stopped the game. And then with only a couple of minutes left in added time, so they played that half an hour later when there was almost nobody left in the ground, and there would be nothing to play for because we're not going to score 2 goals in 2 minutes. So Le Havre won. There will be sanctions for Nantes in terms of fines and maybe like a stadium closure or stands closure. But the tension is massively high, and Antoine Camboire, I think, is going to stay in charge for now. But I think they haven't won in 8 now, something crazy like that.
Young Guns, that's former Paris Saint-Germain manager Antoine Camboire.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, what are the Nantes fans angry at? Are they angry at the club?
At the club, the ownership, which is a long-running feud against the Kita family who owns the club, but also the fact that the team
Polish guys.
Yeah, the Polish
Valdemar.
guys. Valdemar, the son, and Valdemar, the dad, Frank, the son. Valdemar, I said to you often, who made his money in plastic surgery for every part of your body, including, that part if you're a man.
Oh, it's
male
enhancement surgery.
Yeah, exactly. To get it bigger if you want.
Jared Lopez might be available soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wondering.
Right. 7 wins in a row now for Fiorentina, who become 2-0 on the road. Gab, they're also second, with a lot of teams, because it's that tight at the top of Serie A. And Moise Kean and David De Gea are enjoying their own personal renaissance. I mean, De Gea.
Yeah. What?
De Gea is incredible.
No, look, I think as long as he sits between the sticks and the guy's reflexes haven't gone. They're there. Check out, it's on YouTube. He made one double save that was impressive.
Special.
And by the way, that was a double save. That was not like the keeper make yourself really big or Schmeichel and hope for the best. That was really impressive. The ball at his feet, not so much. Moise Kean now 12 goals on the season, which is
mad.
I'm like, is this the same guy? His record is 13 goals, I think, with PSG, with Paris Saint-Germain. But I think he's going to pulverize that this year. Jules, that defeat to Chelsea cost Steve Cooper his job. Any sympathy? And what do you think of the bookies' candidates to replace him?
I think it's never good when you're the first manager to get sacked in the season. It's not a good trophy.
He's not. Did you forget who got sacked?
Of course. How can I forget him?
You've wiped all memory of him.
No, I just wanted to mention Erik ten Hag again. Sorry, I know, Eric, you're watching or listening. To be fair, I think they have a good squad that should have done better so far this season. And okay, it's not a perfect squad, and they ship so many goals that defensively they are shambles. But I thought they would do better, and I guess it's probably right for him to get sacked. Although I would have got rid of him before the international break, so at least you get the chance to the new guy to have 10 days of working.
I want somebody to come out and explain this, somebody from the club. I know for a fact that they have a director of football.
They do.
I'm pretty sure they have a CEO as well. I know that they have the guy Top, or whatever his name is. Top's not his real name, but he likes people to call him Top.
Yeah, Top.
Come out and explain to the fans why you did not sack Cooper before the break.
I know.
Because I hate it when clubs do this, right? People said, oh, well, no, because they were negotiating with somebody. Who the hell were they negotiating with? Because, I mean, these are the 4 guys.
They could not have waited for the Chelsea game because it was more likely they would lose even at home than not. Anyway.
But even if they'd won, if you think Cooper's rubbish, what? Like, oh, look, we beat Chelsea. All right, let's keep Cooper. Now we suddenly think he's good
but
again.
If there's an improvement, I guess you can see, okay.
Based on 90 minutes.
Yeah, no, I know.
I don't understand how they make this. And I'm looking at the candidates, right?
Yeah.
So you have Davy Moyes.
No, thank you.
Who it's not going to happen anyway.
No.
Graham Potter, who has been unemployed forever, so presumably it's not like you needed to wait for him.
No. But it could be him. I think it's likely to be him.
Ruud van Nistelrooy, I guess because of those games in charge.
Yeah, but he has applied as well, and he's free.
He finishes the job on Monday. You could have hired him on Tuesday,
True.
right? And Mark Robbins, maybe that's the only one if you really like him, the former Coventry guy.
He lives in the area.
He lives in the area. He's local. No, and I guess he only recently was let go, right? For
Coventry. Yeah.
So maybe, but it just looks so. It looks so haphazard. I don't understand. Why don't you operate according to basic, unless something happened? I mean, maybe after the game, maybe Cooper went out and farted in Top's face. I don't know.
No, that's not the case. But it'd be interesting to see. But I think they have underperformed this season. Atalanta battled Parma 3-1 away and stay second in Serie A. We say like a lot of other teams, but Gab, they are looking really good.
Yeah, a lot of other teams.
They were top until Napoli played.
They're 1 point behind. I mean, as are Lazio, Fiorentina, and Inter, of course. Ederson is playing out of his skin right now. Like, I'm not saying he's the best Ederson in the world because the City keeper's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's pretty close between those two.
Close, yeah. Great performance, great goal.
Yeah, no. Ademola Lookman, again, looking good. The thing with them is always the intensity, and this is why they can be a little inconsistent sometimes. But as long as he keeps making all these changes, and there's 11 new Atalanta players out there, and there's more to come. Some of these guys, Scamacca is going to be back from injury at some point.
Yeah.
Zaniolo, he said he's made it his personal project to get him to get back to the Zaniolo of 3 years ago. Good luck with that. But if he does that, no. And they're speaking openly, the club anyway, about, we want to compete for the Serie A title. And so they should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jules, we've had our draw for the Nations League quarterfinals.
Oh, yes.
How do you see this going?
I think this is really for one game, well, 2 games, first leg, second legs. But for one fixture only, the one and only Italy v Germany, the old rivalry, the game of all games in the quarterfinals there. Okay, I don't give you much chance, let's be honest here. I don't want to break your heart already, especially with the second leg away in Germany.
It's okay, Jonathan Tah, bring it. Bring it, Jonathan Tah.
The way this Germany side has been playing. But for me, this is the best tie of all those quarterfinals. Then you've got the Netherlands against Spain, which is pretty tasty still. Even
Spain heavily favored.
Yeah, of course, especially with the Dutch guy on the bench. But then Croatia v France.
France heavily favored.
I think so. And then Denmark v Portugal.
Portugal heavily favored. So,
exactly. But anything can happen, as we know. But for me, Italy, Germany.
Italy, Germany, the 1970 World Cup semi-final, finishing 4-3. Voted the game of the century.
One of the greatest games.
It's all on YouTube. Go educate yourselves.
Mallorca beat Las Palmas 3-2 with an indirect free kick winner really deep in injury time. But got plenty of controversy over that VAR call.
So the reason I've included this in the show is I have never seen anything like it. Technically correct. Perhaps according to the rules, we can debate if the rules are right. So this is what happens. It's 2-2. Okay. Mallorca are attacking. They don't score. Vedat Murici, who's the super tall, big Kosovo striker for Mallorca, he's kind of like by the post. Jaime Mata, who plays for Las Palmas, turns to him and says, "Ha ha!" He taunts him. He's basically
exactly.
Something you see in the NFL. Ha ha! You couldn't score. Ha ha ha! Like dumb or whatever, right? You don't actually hear what he says, but he just kind of moves his arms, and you see, obviously he's making.
You can
fun
see,
of him,
he's
right?
in his face,
So Murici responds, as you do, by giving him the finger. Right. VAR sees Murici giving him the finger and intervenes because apparently that's a red card offense. I'd
never seen it before.
But then I don't often see players giving other players the finger.
No, that's true.
I know obviously foul and abusive language can be.
Yeah.
So once the VAR intervenes, then he can look at Jaime Mata as well. And he says, wait a minute, Jaime Mata taunted him. Aha. Then this should be an indirect free kick because apparently you can't taunt an opponent, right?
Yeah.
I think Mata was making like funny faces at him. It's really childlike. So they get an indirect free kick in the box. It's like literally the edge of the 6-yard line. Those situations where you never score because the other team just puts 9 guys across the line, right? Well, 9 plus the goalkeeper because poor Maurici's not there. Actually, no, because Mallorca were attacking, but whatever. And somehow they score. Mojica scores. And the whole point here, it feels wrong that you're the guy who gives the finger and gets sent off, but then your team benefits.
Yeah.
This is the goal that could send Las Palmas down, which means we wouldn't see your buddy Ollie McBurney and his skin tones anymore.
And the other Scottish guy who plays for them, McKenna.
So I haven't seen this. This is an example. where they apply the rules correctly. You can dislike the rules.
I know.
I don't know that I want to see this too often.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching La Liga's coverage, and Chapi Ferrer was saying, it's like, but players insult each other and taunt each other all the time. Like, why is this?
True.
I know why there's a no taunting rule in the NFL. It's because those guys could physically kill each other or end their careers and break their necks.
In the NBA, you take a technical foul when you taunt, so you get points against you sometimes for it.
I guess, but then also, don't you ever wonder like how often they just whisper things to each other?
True.
The old story of
of course.
Was it Larry Bird playing against Dr. J where like he basically kept a running count of how many points he scored?
Really?
And, he's like 18-4, 21-4, 23-4, right? You hear these stories. I don't know how I feel about it. To be honest, the problem here is everybody saw the Morici finger.
Yeah.
The Mata taunt, it's just the guy making funny faces. I don't know. Jules, we have our MLS semifinalists, or as they like to call them, conference finalists. Because there's an East and a West in MLS.
Of course.
It's Orlando City against New York Red Bull and Seattle Sounders versus LA Galaxy. I've helpfully put all the results on the score, so you can run us through this.
Oh, I knew all of them pretty much.
I did not.
My boys for the LAFC.
Because once Messi went out, I'm like, why am I watching?
But I was sad for Hugo Lloris and Olivier Giroud, of course, and LAFC. And Will Farrell in the stands with his cap losing to the Sounders 2-1 in extra time as well. Heartbreaking. That was for Orlando, who we will see in a couple of quick hits. Also did really well in the NWSL qualifying.
Different set of players, I hasten to add.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's an issue right now about which bathrooms people use.
And New York winning the New York Derby too, which is pretty special to qualify for the conference final.
Derby.
And then the LA Galaxy thrashing the Minnesota United. So we will get, I think, 2 quite tasty games to decide who will be the finalists.
On paper, I would think the Sounders are the favorites to win.
Yeah, I would say probably. And the way they want to in LA as well against FC was pretty impressive, I thought. So,
and by the way, good news for New York City FC fans. They got naming rights to their new stadium, which is going to be near City Field. There's a Met Stadium and near sort of Flushing Meadow. Do you know what it's going to be called?
No.
You want to guess who the title sponsor is for New York City FC?
What kind of industry are we talking about?
Airlines.
Airlines. Well, as in American Airways?
No, not American Airlines, not Qatar Airways, not Emirates.
Oh, let me think again. Maybe
not Air France.
Not Air France. Could it be not British Airways, but maybe something that starts with an E?
That's right. It's going to be called Etihad Park.
Oh,
because the other one is Etihad Stadium. Look, I don't want to go back to this, but when people talk about why do you need fair market valuations?
Exactly.
This is why. You can get. I mean, how many destinations in the U.S. do you think Etihad Airways flies from? Given that, as you know, the flights have to originate in United Arab Emirates, right?
Yeah.
So you would think, how much is this worth? And I don't. This is why people have to look. If they can do this, if they can clear, I don't even know if MLS probably doesn't have rules on this. That's fine, but this is why the rules are there.
Absolutely. Javier Mascherano staying in MLS. He's expected to take over as the Inter Miami coach, Gab.
Yeah. So his experience, of course, he was part of the Argentine FA setup.
The
I think he worked with Scaloni, the under-20s and the under-20, the Olympic team.
23. He was. Yeah, he lost to France.
I mean, it feels like, is it a good choice? It feels like it's a messy choice. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, we can say that.
I don't, but it's not a bad thing, right?
No, he seems to be a good coach.
But it's not a bad thing that you would take Messi into account, because he is your biggest investment. He's the biggest investment in MLS right now. I actually met him when he was 17 years old and playing for Corinthians. I went out to Sao Paulo and, did this toothy kid in like flip-flops. And you could tell then, honest, I'm not kidding. I'm not saying you could tell then he would become a coach, but you could tell then that he's really, really smart guy, smart football guy, the way he talked back then. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy
it's good.
For him
It's
that
a good
23 years later, he gets to,
very good experience.
He gets to coach Messi. The Orlando Pride are NWSL champions as they beat the Washington Spirit Jules, Marta finally wins NWSL silverware after 8 years.
Yeah, and pretty special. She was amazing in the semi-final with one of the goals of the season, men and women, all league together. Outstanding. And then you could see how much it meant to her. I think her mum was there. She's now her mum herself too. So pretty special moment, especially at that age, because she's 30.
40, I think.
Well, yeah, I was going to say 39, but maybe even 40, yeah. So incredible, really, that she still plays at that level in a very competitive league, and to help that team winning the title is very special. And as we said, the men's are in the semi-final or the conference final, if you want. The women's have won the title. Could be a very special season for Orlando.
These two clubs have the same owner, do they? Is that why you keep, or are they just from the same city?
I just love it that it's not often that men and women of the same club or cities.
It happens to Paris Saint-Germain all the time, so I don't know.
No, it didn't happen all the time. No, same for Lyon either. So yeah, it's pretty rare, I think.
It's funny, Marta afterwards, she talked about how tough NWSL is and how this is the best league in the world and so on. Like I feel like you get a lot in the NWSL chatter. This is the best league in the world. And I'm actually thinking, I would love to know. That, you know, the Club World Cup has its critics. I've said this before. A Women's Club World Cup is a freaking no-brainer. I know there's plans afoot, but this is something that should have happened yesterday. Because I guarantee you, all the top teams, you know, in Europe, Barcelona, Arsenal, City, whatever, all these teams would want to go and play all those teams over there.
Sure.
And especially if they keep repeating that we're the best, we're the best, we're the best. Wouldn't you want to see Aitana saying like, hold my beer here.
Yeah.
Hey, Marta, come here. Let's find out who the best. You know, this is something that could actually work and be commercially successful and benefit the women's game. And I would love to know what the freaking holdup is, why it's taking so long.
Cristiano Ronaldo appeared in a Saudi Pro League documentary promo and said, they say I'm finished, that I'm only here for the money. I still feel the passion. They don't believe it, but I'm here to win. Do you believe him?
You know what? Maybe I'm a sucker, but yeah, I do believe him. Because I think at this stage of where Cristiano Ronaldo is in his career, he has enough gold toilets. It's not going to be about the money at this stage. It's going to be about a legacy. It's going to be about whatever. If you can sell him on the idea like, Cristiano, if you come here, not only will we pay you a bucket load of money, but you can turn the Saudi Pro League into the biggest thing, blah, blah, blah. This is going to matter to him. I mean, legacy's got to matter to him. This is a guy who repeats his numbers, or his servants repeat his numbers all the time. Everybody knows what he has achieved, right?
Yeah.
So he's obviously proud of that. And, you know, would it be more meaningful if he went back to Sporting Lisbon, where it all started out?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, but this is something else. This is also something meaningful, and it's meaningful to him. So, yeah, I tend to believe him. At this stage of his career, he's done it. He's come back to United, whatever. I don't know if he's accepted the fact that he can't cut it at United, perhaps. Maybe he has, maybe he believes that, maybe he doesn't. But yeah, no, I think this matters to him. I don't, my thoughts on the Saudi Pro League and their chances of becoming a dominant global leader and viable product. But he wants to be a part of it. And I think in his head, I think he's being totally genuine when he says this. Let's end this with the Florentino Perez show. Jules, he addressed Real Madrid's club members and railed against UEFA and the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, which we expected. I mean, every year pretty much he does that, doesn't he? So this time he said that he loves Rodri and he's from Madrid, Rodri. So they send their love or something like that. And obviously he will want to sign him at some point soon. But he said he should have won the Ballon d'Or last year. This year was Vinicius, or maybe Carvajal, or even maybe Jude Bellingham, which I'm not sure if you Jude Bellingham.
Who won it last year?
Who won it last year?
Was it Lionel Messi after winning the World Cup?
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, just checking that. He said like some journalists who voted for the Ballon d'Or didn't even put Vini in the top 10. So basically, how can we take this seriously when people don't even do that? Naming like Angola and Namibia, Albania to say like
and Finland,
who they should not vote because it's Finland or Albania, which is ridiculous. But anyway. That was him on the Ballon d'Or.
Without these specific countries, he would have won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little bit like when Kamala Harris comes out and says, without Texas and Nebraska and blah, 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 I would have won the... But come on, man. Yeah. Honestly.
And more Florentino, Gabby, because he also talked about the Super League, obviously.
Yes, and if you're a Super League fan and you believe what he says, then you're happy because he said he's more optimistic than ever. He says they want to change history of football for the good of the sport.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a European Court of Justice sentence, which sometimes happens because, hey, it's lawyers and it's the law and they love muddling things up. If you talk to UEFA, they say, no, we won. And if you talk to Real Madrid and the Super League people, no, we won. Anyway, he says that they won. He talked about his plan to show football for free to everybody because the people are suffering because they have to pay extortionate prices to watch games, piracy at unprecedented levels. Again, I don't understand if you have to make money somehow. What do you do? Show ads every 10 seconds? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the problem with this is that his plans, they're never defined, right? They're always, not his, but the
A22, yeah.
Yeah, like they don't come out with an actual business plan other than this generic stuff. But he made an analogy. He said years ago, Blockbuster, in young years, Blockbuster, they used to rent physical DVDs. They were dominant. Then along came Netflix. And because Blockbuster wouldn't adapt, Blockbuster went bankrupt. We don't want football to end up like Blockbuster.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to come along and destroy football?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's not talking about Real Madrid. He's talking about football.
Football will disappear soon, he said. So
is it TikTok?
What
is it?
I
don't know. Food for thought there anyway. Always entertaining.
Always.
Jules, this brings us to an end, but we got to come back.
Of course.
Why? The champions! God, I missed them. There we go. Some huge games coming up midweek. So we're going to be back on Thursday. Until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.